And Tom, it's great to have you back. How are you?
Fantastic, Jim. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for doing it, Tom. Appreciate it. All right, so really quickly, let me start with a tweet you had earlier this morning. You were talking about Dak Prescott is expecting to practice on a limited basis. You know, when you've got a quarterback coming back from the kind of injury that Dak is coming back from, you never want to see them get hurt again. Obviously, the shoulder, Tom, is different than that gruesome leg injury last year, but the team is downplaying it. What's your sense as to the actual injury that he suffered in that shoulder and his status?
Well, the Cowboys consulted a couple of baseball teams on Dak Prescott's injury because it's not something you normally see in quarterbacks. It's more so something that you see in pitchers. He started feeling some kind of soreness or pain in his armpit back on July 28th. They decided to take the precaution. They sent him in to get an MRI. It showed a small muscle strain. And really what they came to discover in the coming days, after initially thinking he would just shut it down for a few days, is this was something that if they didn't continue to rest him, if they didn't take the utmost precautions, could turn into something a lot worse. So as much as we saw Dak on Hard Knocks last week, he doesn't want to miss a single rep. He wants to be out there all the time. They held him back for his own good. They continued to ramp him up over the past week, had him throwing a little bit on the side. They had him throwing in pregame against Arizona on Friday. There was a lot made of the tweet that the Cowboys sent out saying, you know, don't panic. It's no reason to be concerned, but Dak's getting another MRI. That may not have helped matters just from a public opinion standpoint, but the thing you have to understand, in the NFL, guys get MRIs for a lot of different reasons. It doesn't always mean that there was some kind of a setback or a guy's hurt worse or they're concerned. This was something that was regularly scheduled for Dak. Sometimes you get an MRI. You know, all these guys now when they have muscle injuries get these PRP injections. Sometimes you're doing an MRI just to make sure you're putting the injection in the right spot. So obviously they liked what they saw when they put him through those tests again on Saturday. They're going to continue to ease him back in here, give him some today. It might be substantial what he's able to do in practice. They haven't ruled out him playing in preseason game number 2 against the Texans. But bottom line, Jim, for Dak and the Cowboys, the only thing that matters is get him to September 9th.
It's good information, Tom. Now, that tweet may not have helped them, but it helped me. I got a whole segment out of that, man. What a weird tweet that was. And weird is good, and weird is awesome in that sense. Tom Pelissero is joining us. Hey, Tom, what about Jordan Love? He was dinged up in his debut Saturday night, but according to reports, he also had an MRI and it came back clean. What's your sense as to his status going forward?
Well, he's got some kind of a strain in his shoulder, and if you look at the mechanism of the injury Jordan Love suffers the other night, you have to be concerned immediately on a replay that it could have been a lot worse. I mean, he's coming forward with his throwing arm. He gets grabbed, kind of the elbow comes forward, the hand does not. It obviously got torqued in a weird way. The Packers wanted to be cautious with him. I know my colleague Ian Rappaport reported that he's not going to practice today. Then they got a couple of off days, but it was good news on the MRI for Jordan Love. And it's good news for Love and his development and the Packers' ability to see him. Remember, Jordan Love didn't have a preseason last year, and he really didn't even get reps in the regular season. They had a guy named Tim Boyle, who's now in Detroit, backing up Aaron Rodgers. So it was Boyle taking all the scout team reps until, you know, you got late into the season, or at minimum taking half of them. So Love had very little exposure through the course of the season. Their plan, whether Aaron Rodgers was a part of this team in 2021 or not, was to give Jordan Love a ton of action in the preseason. So we'll see now as we get later into the week, closer to the next game, whether or not Jordan Love is going to be able to go. You wouldn't think they'd push him out there just to get preseason reps, but they certainly would like to continue evaluating Love on the field. And based on what you saw from the first preseason game, you certainly look at it and say that's a guy who belongs on the field. Well, think about this, Jim, and of course the Vikings were so bad on defense a year ago, far worse than any Mike Zimmer defense has ever been. Out of their 5 starters in the secondary, if you include the nickel, 4 of them are new. Patrick Peterson's a really important piece. You know, the question with him is just going to be how well does he run at 31, 32 years old, him and Harrison Smith now, the 2 oldest guys on that Vikings defense. But they like what they've seen from Peterson so far in practice. They really like the leadership that he's brought to that room, because last year they were playing a whole bunch of young dudes and they had so many injuries. I mean, there were times where they were pulling guys up from the practice squad, signing guys off the street on a Wednesday and playing them on Sunday. It's not ideal to go through a season like that. So you play Peterson on one side, Rashad Breeland, the former Chief, he's going to be playing on the other side. They got him back into full work after he was coming off of a surgery in the offseason. Mackenzie Alexander's back. He's going to be the nickel. They brought over Xavier Woods at safety. He's going to play next to Harrison Smith. Of course, up front, the Vikings made huge investments, too. They went out and signed Dalvin Tomlinson, the best interior defensive lineman in free agency. Michael Pierce, who was their big signing last year, opted out because of COVID. He's back. Sheldon Richardson, they re-signed him. I mean, they're playing, and they're constructing that defense like they expect to win right now. You don't sign a bunch of 28, 29, 30-year-old guys if you're thinking we're going to build for the future. No, this is Mike Zimmer saying we're going to win right now. They think they're going to be a lot better on defense than they were a year ago. And then it's a matter of that offense with Dalvin Cook and Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen. Can they keep up? The Vikings absolutely believe they're going to be competitive in the NFC North in 2021.
Breaking it all down with Tom Pelissero. Tom, let me ask you about Seattle and Jamal Adams. I'm jumping around before I let you go. But what about the situation between Seattle and Adams? That continues. Where do things stand with that right now?
They've been in a standoff for some time now, and there is a difference between, I know the Seattle Times reported the specific numbers. They're offering Jamal Adams $17.5 million per year. That would make him by far the highest paid safety in NFL history. $38 million guaranteed. One issue with Seattle's contract structure in general is they don't guarantee future base salaries. A lot of teams will use that to up the guarantees. The Seahawks just don't do it. They didn't do it with Russell Wilson. They have a very specific contract structure that they use, and so there's a little bit of wiggle room in terms of what Jamal Adams and his side might want. But think about this. It becomes a math problem for Jamal Adams. If he plays out this season, if he turns down $17.5 million per year, he plays out this season for $9.8 million. They tag him next March. That's $11.8 million. So you're talking about making 22 over 2. And even then, you're not guaranteed to get to free agency in 2023. So you're going to see threats. You're going to see things written about Jamal Adams could play out this season, then sit out next season. Nobody wants to be a 29-year-old free agent who hasn't played in a year. So for Jamal Adams, you can't blame the player or his agents for trying to get the best deal possible. The idea he's actually going to turn down $17.5 million still seems unlikely. Not impossible. You never say never in this league, Jim, but seems unlikely at this point that they wouldn't find a path forward.
Right. Tom, one last topic for you. You reported Thursday that 4 Cardinal players went on the reserve COVID-19 list because of high-risk, close contacts with a positive individual. As you also pointed out, quote, only unvaccinated players can be labeled high-risk, close contacts under current NFLPA protocols. Knowing that, how hard are teams pushing to get their players vaccinated?
They've been pushing hard, and the coaches have been leading the charge since back in the offseason. And to a large degree, they've succeeded. I mean, it's 90+% of NFL players right now are vaccinated, or at least on the way to being fully vaccinated. So in a league where after cuts you're going to have 2,000 players, you're talking about 200 guys around the league who are not vaccinated. But I can tell you this, Jim, there are big names. There are quarterbacks, there are star players who are part of that list. And the close contact protocol is one reason that this is going to be an issue throughout the course of the season, because it's not just a matter of do you test positive, it's were you around the positive individual. If you're fully vaccinated under the current protocols, and as we saw last year, these can evolve, they'll probably change over the course of the season, but under the current protocol, if you're fully vaccinated, you don't have to isolate. They test you, they give you a COVID test for like 8 days, but you can stay with the team, keep practicing and playing. If you are unvaccinated and you have a close contact, you are out 4 or 5 days. So if we're talking about within the course of a game week, you have a close contact on a Thursday, you're not playing that week. And also, if you test positive, the protocols are different, because if you are unvaccinated, you have to miss a minimum of 10 days. You're talking about at least 1 or 2 games. If you're fully vaccinated, you can come back with 2 negative tests separated by 24 hours. So it is actually possible, although, medically you certainly can debate how likely it is, but it is possible. You could test positive on a Monday, and if you're fully vaccinated, you could still be playing in the game on Sunday.